Heartiest welcome to Global Talk Show by Business Power Academy, Netherlands. And today we have an eminent, powerful, inspiring, motivated personality. And folks, this show is going to bring a lot of positive vibes, a lot of energy when we are going to take a deep dive in this great journey with Dr. Donald. Dr. Donald, welcome to our show, and it's been a great pleasure for me to host you today.
Thank you, Dr. Supriya. I am delighted to be here.
Well, global audience, I know you are very excited to know about Dr. Donald's inspiring, very motivating, and awesome journey, and even me too. So without taking a pause, without taking any single minute delay, let's start this beautiful pious journey. Dr. Donald, straight away, we are so excited to know about your inspiring life journey. Kindly enlighten my global audience.
Yes, I'd be delighted. I was born in Denver, Colorado, to a meager couple. My parents, Hispanics, of meager means. I was the third of 8 children. And my origin story starts with the fact that my father, a Korean War veteran, came back a different man. The man that went to war was not the man that came back from war. He was broken, and he suffered from mental illness and alcoholism. And when he drank, he was violent. I don't have many memories before the age of 7, almost no memories. But my oldest sister, Roma, she tells us that we would run and hide when my dad would come home because we didn't know which dad was coming home. The angry, violent dad or the loving, fun dad. We just didn't know which dad was coming home. And so this was my early life. So it was chaotic. It was troublesome. We did move during those years at different times and so forth. But at the age of 7, my mother said, enough, no more of this. And she moved us 200 miles away from Denver, Colorado to start a new life for us. She went back to school. She had been in nursing school, and she started going back to school to get a teaching degree to start a new life for all 8 of us children. And that was a new start for us. But a pivotal point that took place when I was 13 is Mom had remarried. We moved at that time. We were living in New Mexico, where she had taken her first teaching jobs and then was working on graduate degrees. She remarried. Then we moved back to Colorado. First time had stability in our lives. My academics blossomed. First time I ever brought home straight A's. And I discovered wrestling. I had been inept at any sport up to that point. I mean, I couldn't throw, I couldn't catch, I couldn't run. I was weak, I was uncoordinated, I was awkward physically, I was awkward socially, and I was bullied. I had 2 guys bullying me in the 8th grade. But after I discovered wrestling, I never had anyone ever bully me again. Still very small for my size, I'm not a big man, but never had anyone ever bully me again. So at 13 was a very pivotal year, but it was also during that year that my dad died. And so a lot of things happened at the age of 13 that changed the course of my life.
I must say, Dr. Donald, it's really, this journey which you had narrated just now, it was just a 5 to 6 minutes journey, but how horrifying it would be. But one positive thing I really liked and loved about your inspiring journey that you moved on and you never bent or knocked down with your adversities or with your challenges, or some calls problems, but you said challenges. And today I'm hosting a very strong man, and I'm so honored, who is sitting in front of me. And it's really great pleasure for me to take this lovely global talk show with the strongest Dr. Donald. Thank you so much for this loveliest answer, Dr. Donald. It is so inspiring. Well, global talk show audience, I'm sure after listening this 2 to 3 minutes of inspiring life journey, can you imagine We all have certain immense type of vigor in our own personality. Only we have to take it out. And
Right.
even if we are not strong, when the time comes, we all are strong. And that's the time where we have to show our courage, our potentiality to this world. Awesome, Dr. Donald. Well, moving to this lovely journey, Dr. Donald, I would love to ask, in your life, I mean, everybody faced some or other challenges in your life, some sort of any challenges that you had faced, and you said, "Oh my God, how I'm going to come over this." So something like that. But I know you're very strong, but still, we want to know that.
Well, I mentioned the death of my father when I was 13. There later, I had a scholarship, a full a scholarship to the University of Notre Dame. There is an Army ROTC scholarship, but I became confused during my 5th semester there. I was struggling with both my wrestling and my academics, and struggling in what I felt my calling was in life, whether that is going into ministry, whether it's going to continue to pursue pre-med studies. And I ended up leaving school, and I was struggling for the next few years. And during that time, I had been in a relationship during my last year in high school, and during that time with a young woman, and that relationship broke up, and that left me brokenhearted. And so for 3 years, struggling with what I was going to be doing, struggling with God, struggling to mend a broken heart. And then I ended up at the Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to further pursue my studies. And that was a pivotal point there in terms of things, and I'll come back to that in a minute here. Pursued pre-med, but other challenges there. So pre-med, I met my wife with no intention of ever meeting a woman, none whatsoever. I was going to get into medical school. I was going to pursue things. I ended up going to medical school on an Army scholarship. We ended up getting married right before medical school. Later in medical school, we have our firstborn. He's a preemie, 6.5 weeks premature, with medical problems and so forth. Don't have time to get into this, but all of these things. So those are some of the challenges, and then challenges related to the Army. I was deployed 37 months, over 18 months in combat zones. So I was gone from my family's life. And that's apart from when you're on call. That's apart from being called away from, spending nights in the hospital and being called away from training and so forth. I spent a lot of time away from my family.
Yeah.
You deal with deaths, you deal with suicides, you deal with certain things that you have to deal with. And so those kind of things. The death of my stepfather later, back in the late 90s. And so all of these accumulated things that go on in your life. So you deal with these. But the biggest struggle, and perhaps the biggest challenge I ever faced, was when I faced depression. And that was my 26th and last year in the Army. And that left me curled up in a fetal position under the desk in my office. And that truly was the biggest challenge that I had to face and overcome.
Dr. Donald, I will say only a golden line for you. Like, situations either can break a person or can make a person, right? Like adversities, we have seen so many people will give up in their life, and they were all bullied with their problems, their personal problems, their professional problems. But one thing I really learned from your life, that keep moving on, keep pushing yourself, because there is no one who will work for you, who will come as a messenger of God. It's you, it's your soul. It's your, you can say it's your strong soul who was just motivating you to your work, to your talk. And with this, your lovely smile, you can say you just won your battle. And this is really an inspiring story today you are sharing with me and with my global audience. So you are, you have energized everyone. And whenever we will face such hardships in our life, we will remember you, and we will say, keep moving on, never ever give up on your dreams. So thank you so much for this greatest inspiring answer. Awesome one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I would love to know, as you mentioned one word, depression. And whenever we talk about depression, this is really a monster who is standing in front of you with her claws and with her paws, wants to take you. So, Dr. Donald, in your life, there were so many hardships, as you said, and you suffered too. So, how, what message you would like to share with us today? What actually it is? Because for some, it is like a decrease in the chemicals of serotonin, as scientifically they say, what I know. And some says, no, it happens due to your ambience, your circumstances. So what exactly it is? And when it happens to you, how we should deal with this? So can you
Thank
tell us
you.
something? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Spria. Yes, just as a quick backdrop, what I want people to understand is I'm a tough guy. Okay, I endured a lot of difficulty during my years of growing up and so forth, and I alluded to some of that. And that's just a smattering of what I dealt with. I'm a very resilient person, but I'm a tough guy. I'm a wrestler. I was a two-time district champion in high school. I was a state runner-up in high school. I won many state freestyle tournaments. I placed in national freestyle tournaments when I was in high school. I was a veterans wrestling champion as an adult. There, I'm a tough guy. I was a colonel. I had been deployed in combat zones, etc.
Can
So
you
all
show
these,
me that your award once again? I would love to see.
yes,
Wow.
there it is. So I won
Awesome.
that in 2012. There
Great.
training my son. And that was after a 30-year hiatus from competition. So
Yeah.
I'm a tough guy, but I succumbed to depression. And so that's important for people to understand. Depression cuts across all segments. It doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
Race, profession, socioeconomics, it does not discriminate. And that's one thing I want people to take away. So signs and symptoms. Well, the sine qua non, the essential element is mood, and that dark, deep blue mood. And that's just not feeling discouraged. When we say, well, I feel depressed, it's like this dark, heavy black cloud descends upon you. That the life is sucked out of you, that there's just no sense of hope, and everything is in black and white. It's this heaviness that descends upon you, and you can feel it in your bones, in your soul. That's what I want you to know is the essential element, but it's a signs and symptoms. It's not just one thing there. It affects your entire being. It affects your cognition, trouble concentrating, trouble remembering. I had trouble remembering what I had read 5 minutes before. What was that? Trouble recalling common medication or medical syndromes, things I was well familiar with. It was like I was rummaging through the memory banks. What was that? What was that? And couldn't pull it up. So it affects your cognition. It affects your concentration, your confidence. My confidence went down in the toilet. Decision making was impaired. This social withdrawal. I didn't want to be around people. It just took too much energy. Plus, I didn't feel confident. I felt worthless. I felt like a failure. You can get these negative thoughts like I did. You let your family down. You let the army down. You let your department down. Who's going to want to hire you? You are a fake. You don't deserve to be a colonel. And those kind of thoughts just batter you day and night. We call these in medical terms negative ruminations. It's like a ruminator, like a cow with multiple stomachs there. They bring up their do it and they swallow and they bring it up. They ruminate. And so those thoughts just pound at you day and night. So these negative ruminations, this anhedonia, loss of pleasure, that in anything, there's just no pleasure in anything. Going through life in black and white. The somatic symptoms, my body just ached from old injuries. Oh, the osteoarthritis just ached and hurt. Others can get headaches or stomach aches or maybe chest pain. It's not uncommon for individuals to go see the doctor and they have these physical ailments but it's really the inflammation related to the depression, and it's being expressed in their bodies. My libido, my sex drive was in the toilet. So you see how it affects your body. Men in particular may have irritability and anger. And this is one of the things that can distinguish men from women when they're struggling with depression. More often than not, men will have irritability, will have anger. And so you see this differently from somebody, and you have to look. And then I mentioned the social withdrawal. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to engage in activities. I like being around people. I like doing things, but I didn't want to. It just took too much energy. And then men may also engage in risky behavior, pornography, gambling, unsafe sex, driving like a maniac, other activities, or they may self-medicate, drugs, booze, and other things because they're trying to deal with the pain. So these are some of the things, and it's an assortment of these signs and symptoms that make up depression. It's not just the one, but it's a combination of these with the mood.
Dr. Donald, this is very true. But one thing which I can sense from your life and what you told, depression is there. There is no doubt. But one most important thing, that is our willpower. When our willpower is strong, any monster depression, anxiety can't stand in front of us. No matter how many problems, whether it's you, me, or global talk show audience faces. But we should say only one thing. This is just one person, the depression monster is. What it's my willpower is more than you, and nobody, no depression can't, bend down my vigor, my positivity, my confidence. And Dr. Donald, sometimes I also face such situations in my life which says to give up. And I say, no, it's not me who will give up. It's the depression, it's the challenges, it's the problems who are going to knock down. And that's the spirit which Dr. Donald has given us through his life journey. So global audience, come on, move up in your life, no matter how many difficulties, problems, challenges comes, but go on, move on, and never give up. Thank you so much, Dr. Donald, for this loveliest answer. And now, without any delay, I want to know, what is Dr. Donald's mission or vision? So please kindly enlighten us.
Thank you, Dr. Supriya. Well, it was born out of when I was recovering. I was about 6 weeks into my recovery, and throughout my depression and into my recovery, I was screaming, I was begging, I was crying out with this prayer, Lord, 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 please deliver me from this darkness. I was in such a dark place. And my brother Chris, my youngest brother, called me very excitedly one day about 6 weeks into my recovery. And he said, Skip, I was at a Bible study with Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, well-known evangelist. And Franklin taught on suffering. And he taught about the suffering of Christ. And he challenged, he said, why Christians, especially Western Christians, do we think we should be immune from suffering?
Exactly.
And that hit me like, because it brought to mind a scripture from the book of Philippians that the Apostle Paul wrote, and I believe it's verse 3, Philippians 2:13. Oh, that I might know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering.
So true. Right?
Boom. I knew that scripture. I had prayed that scripture. But in the midst of my suffering, what did I want? I wanted deliverance. And over the course of 2 days, my prayers changed from, Lord, please, please, please deliver me, to Lord, what would you have me learn? And how might I use it to help others? That prayer changed my perspective, changed the course of my recovery, and changed the course of my life. Because I knew at that moment that I was going to have to help other men. I knew at that moment that I was going to have to share my story. It was as though God was giving me a kick in the pants and he gave me a new mission.
Very true.
Other tough guys were struggling with this dark disease.
Yeah.
And that led me on a new trajectory over the course of the next several years. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know when I was going to do it, but I knew I must do it.
And you have done, you have acknowledged, you have achieved it. There is no doubt in that, Dr. Donald. So I must say, whether we should know or not know, whether we are in confusion or dilemma, whether we will achieve or not achieve, but there is always, where there is a will, there is a way. And that's what, Dr. Donalds, you have proved it in your hardships, in your circumstances, that nothing can beat you down if you are determined to take your journey on. And Dr. Donald, you were really, really, really inspiring personality today. And it's my great privilege, again and again, I'm saying it's my great privilege to meet today such a great person, such an honored person who has given me a light, an inspiration to move on. How many, apart from how many difficulties you face or anybody's face. Thank you so much for this greatest inspiring answer. And before I say goodbye to you, Dr. Donald, we can say one thing to our global audience. If you want to connect to Dr. Donald, you can connect. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's on Facebook. And I must highly recommend if you want to take his awesome mind-blowing coachings, because this is just the guarantee I am giving you. Go through him, connect with him, make your life successful and the best one. All right, Dr. Donald. So before I say goodbye to you and to my global audience, everybody's waiting for your powerful message. So kindly enlighten that powerful message.
Well, I'm going to do a two-part here, Dr. Supriya. And the first is, if you are struggling, please, please, please do not struggle one more day. Do not suffer one more day in silence. Go get help. Go get help. Don't suffer one more day in silence. And men, you are more prone to do this, to suffer in silence, to struggle on your own. Don't do that. Go get help. You'll be glad you did. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, and you owe it to your friends. But I'm going to leave you with this prescription, if I may. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is really awesome, Dr. Donald. This message of yours, I'm sure when people would love to watch this show again and again, replay, retake, they will say only one thing: yes, let's keep moving on. And it's not only us, it's not only you, me, or any he, she, they. Everybody's facing the challenges. Some may call problems and they can just give up in their life. Some may call challenges and they will take it and move on, and they are called kings or queens in their life. So thank you so very much, Dr. Donald, for coming to our show. It's been a great pleasure for me to host you and to meet such a great personality. God bless you.
God bless you, Dr. Supriya.